He's angry about mortgages. It's Angry Mortgage. He's swearing. He's cursing loud. He's old. He's opinionated. And he's been doing this so damn long. This program is about mortgages, and this is mortgage advice, but the advice may not apply to your situation. Contact licensed mortgage professionals for specific recommendations before you make decisions about mortgages. You may not agree with Ron, but if you don't, he thinks you're wrong. Oh, and did we say there is a lot of swearing?
We are back.
We're back.
It's an exciting week. I got to introduce everybody every time.
It's Jan.
It's Jan. That's Jan. I'm Ron. And it's the Angry Mortgage Podcast. By the way, we had a number of, this is wild, but we had a number of inquiries last week in questions about the podcast. Say, are you guys associated with a mortgage brokerage? No, it's fine. It's fine. Not everybody can figure out everything perfectly.
That's okay.
And so, yes, we're going to have to start adding this to the podcast. And we are associated with Butler Mortgage, which is in British Columbia, Alberta, and Ontario. So, yes, there is a mortgage brokerage behind Angry Mortgage. So
yes.
that's the facts. All right. All right. So we had there's a lot of action. We're going to go fast because there's so much ground to cover. There is a growing recognition that what's going to happen to condos, new development condos, new construction that's coming due, that's getting finished, and people are going to have to pay for them then, because with new construction condos, you put 20% down.
Yeah.
Sometimes less, but that's the system. Then you wait 5 years, and they're ready to move in, and the condo developer says, hey, time to come up with a mortgage, time to pay cash, whatever the hell you got to do. But on a certain day, on a fixed date that we give you, we expect you to pay up. And
everything's due.
Everything's due. And we're going to form the condo corp. And at that time, all the money that flies into the developer for mortgages. So there's a day when one day the developer owns the condo, and the next day the condominium corporation owns the condo. And the developer takes all that money, pays off all his loans, pays off all his bank loans, bank mortgages, construction financing, pays it all off, and it now belongs to the people who bought.
Right.
Okay? So increasingly, because the number of tiny condos for sale, we got to, I'm going to try to mix it up. Like sometimes I'm going to call them tiny condos. Sometimes I'm going to call them dog crate condos. Because, of course, everybody who is occupying a tiny condo takes offense at dog crate. Okay?
Of course, yeah.
Not everybody. Actually, we had a couple comments once. I remember about 2 months ago, we had a comment that says, yeah, I'm living in one of these places, very tiny condos right now. It's only 428 square feet. And it's not a dog crate, but it's pretty fucking close.
I read one where the guy's like, it's not that bad. You guys should try it out. I've been living here for so and so years. And I'm like, I have 2 dogs and a husband. Like, where are the 4 of us going to be in a 400 square foot condo? But sure.
Yeah. Yes. You're exactly correct.
One single person. Sure. But
one single person who wants no company.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
All right. So we're getting a lot of, now we had a big report. Now, you'll recall, we've been talking about the fact that almost all of these tiny condos are, and again, there's 20,000 of them. New ones are coming for completion in the next 18 months. So in GTA, okay, most of it in the 416. Okay. So there's a tremendous price mismatch. Like, for instance, right now, and they're not selling, so because we know that we read every week.
Yeah.
There's more condos for sale, more tiny condos for sale in Toronto. The listings just keep piling up, and they don't get sold. They're not selling well, but listings keep going up. And every month now, we're going to have projects completing, and more of these 20,000 units are going to come on the market to be. And unfortunately, very few of them are owner occupied. In other words, very few of them people have
actually live
in them.
Yeah.
The people who own it live in it. Most of them are rentals, and it doesn't look good. Matter of fact, it looks really bad. So even though we've been talking about it for months and months, a big company called Urban Nation suddenly woke up and figured it out now. Okay.
Okay. Better late than never.
Better late than never. So they published a report that of all new condos coming on stream, and most new condos when they're purchased, even on a resale basis, they are negative cash flow. So they came up with a number that new condos coming on stream, I think 82% of them, if I remember the number right, the landlord loses money on it. Like the rent doesn't cover. They assume an 80% mortgage. The rent doesn't cover the mortgage payment, the condo fees, and the property tax. Doesn't cover it. So whoever owns it is going backwards hundreds or dollars, whatever, maybe more, every single month. They are losing money on their condos. And the sort of idea, they didn't actually float this idea in Urban Nation. I'm not putting this on them, but there's been some other commentary in the industry that it's important that government look at this problem. Why? Well, in some ways, it's a reasonable thought. It's a reasonable thought to think about it. Like some of this, we can talk about solutions in a minute, but it's reasonable to say if we have chronic housing shortage in Ontario, right? And in Canada, we have chronic housing shortage. All we've ever heard from the federal government, the provincial government, local government, you name it, every single fucking level of government, we keep hearing, yes, we're going to build extra homes. We're going to build by 2035. We're going to have 5 million new homes, blah, 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 blah. Total failure.
Why don't they just buy these ones?
Okay, fine. That's it. So, but like, they have to wait to go through the process of people.
Yeah, but I mean, they're built. So that's a huge, jump. Sure.
By the way, you're quite correct to this extent. By the middle of next year, somebody's going to be thinking of something because whole buildings won't be able to close.
Of course.
Like people will look at it and say, well, wait a second. I paid $1,300 a square foot, or I paid $1,210 a square foot for this unit. And across the street, it's the resale is selling for $920, $925. So yeah, I'm doomed. Okay, like how long is it going to take just for me to break even? And I'm losing $800 a month all the way through. I mean, I'm just scared. I'm scared, and I don't think my bank's going to allow me to close. I don't think that when they start to look at the economics of it, they're going to say, we don't want to give you this mortgage. Yeah. Okay, because you're going broke if you get it. So yes, correct. Should the government buy them? I don't know that answer. We'll have to sort of see this unfold. Right now, it's just a bunch of people getting in trouble on completing the purchase. We haven't hit the point where a whole building has to say, looks like 80% of the people aren't going to close. We don't know what to do.
Knock on wood, that doesn't happen, but the trend is not looking good.
The trend is not our friend. No. So there's been ideas floated, much as you said. So if the whole building can't close, then what should we think about? Because we need housing. So should we think about? So I'm okay with thinking about it, but the idea that somehow we should bail out people, the government should bail out, particularly the developer. And my position on this is clear: the developer is a business. If the developer knew 5 years ago they were selling units at a 50% higher square foot price than was resale at the time 5 years ago, and if they thought that would work out, I think they should get fucked. I mean, like I think that honestly, if you're gambling with hundreds of millions of dollars, if you're making a bet that you know what, it's going to be 50%, 60% more money. We're gonna have to, we're selling this for 60% more per square foot than you could buy it today. So I'm sort of gambling that in 5 years there's going to be like 10% a year inflation, and it'll all be fine. Inflation on a building. Yeah. Okay. Now, sure, there was inflation, but that's an incredible bet, right?
Yeah.
That the prices are gonna, and the reason why is that in the previous 10 years, the prices did double. The previous 5 years, some of the prices did double.
So it's not like they pulled the forecast out of their ass either, but I mean, they went for the stretch.
They sort of did. Okay, they sort of did, because here's a really, really important thing to understand about rental properties. People say, well, if it's supply and demand, if there's very little supply, but that's not completely true about rents. Okay, if you're pricing a property so that the mortgage payment and the maintenance fees, the monthly maintenance fees, the condo fees, and the property tax are at, say, going to be, and people say, well, we didn't expect the rates to go so high. Well, hold on a second. Like, didn't the fact they brought in a stress test mean that, yeah, we figured it could go higher? Like, you have to be careful.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, if you were basing all your calculations on a 1.99% mortgage rate, I think that's a big fucking error.
Yeah.
Okay? I think you got to go at least significantly higher than that, at least 4%. Okay?
For sure. Yeah.
And if at that rate of 4%, when you're thinking about it 5 years ago, if that 4% rate plus the property tax plus the monthly condo fee, if that number came out to $2,600, okay, $2,600 a month for that number.
Yeah.
And, so therefore we think that people are going to want to rent this small place for $2,800 a month.
They didn't, I guess, something happened. They didn't think that far ahead, or
no, they have to. It's hundreds of millions of dollars.
They didn't sit down and do that calculation?
Sure they did. And you know what they said? They said, we don't care, because that's going to be the problem for the buyer. Because ultimately, they never actually, the one thing nobody thought about is a crisis where buyers wouldn't close. Okay? That's the one thing developers never thought about. They never thought about, well, because here's the thing. If people at the time were only paying $1,750 or $1,800 a month 5 years ago for that small condo, how the hell did they think it was going to go up that much? Because would wages go up that much?
Yeah. No, absolutely not.
No, absolutely not. So this was a calculation just made on, I'll tell you what the developers thought. The developers thought the investors who buy these properties are so fucking greedy they think it'll be fine. Now, they're not all. Some of them are badly misled. I want to say that. I've seen cases, we're going to go into this in another show, but I've got a file coming up where I'm seeing that the investor in the pre-con, the investor in the pre-construction condo, was fantastically lied to and tricked, and I got it in writing. Okay?
Wow.
So we're going to do that in another show. So I'm absolutely telling you that some people were fooled.
Right.
Absolutely fooled when they bought these.
Right, but going back to the whole government bailing them out thing, like... That's our tax dollars.
Yes!
And like, as much as I have a heart for the next person who, took this risk, ultimately it was their risk, not mine.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
So you went into this knowing that things could go south.
Well, they didn't feel there was a chance of it. Let's be honest. They really didn't.
Yeah, sure. Because, the housing market was only on its way up. Right.
Correct.
But it's a risk. It's a risk. Even though you didn't think the risk would hit you, it's always a risk.
Oh, you mean does the actual concept of risk exist? Yes, thank you. That is correct. Is any investment of any kind,
always,
other than the bank CD, other than just, hey, I got a term deposit at the bank, you're going to put it in here for a year, you're going to pay me 4.75. Based on all the insurance situations we have in Canada, the deposit insurance we have, no risk, okay? But that's all there. But that's it. Everything else is a risk. Every other investment I know of is a risk. So yes, to your point, you're correct. Okay. Now, I just got to state it openly. My position on any sort of government bailout, when this pre-construction condo situation gets worse and worse, my position is very simple. Hell no. Now, to your point, if after all the dust settles, it makes sense for the government to say, well, developer, you lose everything. You lose all your profits. You lose all the money you invested in the land. You lose everything. And we're just going to take it off your hands.
Yeah.
And all you folks who decided not to close, I guess you lose your deposits.
Yeah.
Okay, because they're gone.
Right.
And what we will say is we could find a way, we'll take over the building ourselves, because now we've got a deep discount, right? We got all the deposits for 20%. Yeah. We've wiped out the developer's position on the cost of the land. And maybe we're going to find a way to make this work. I don't know. We're far, far away from that. By the way, I'll tell you one other, the real one of the real bad actors in this. You talk about greed. That's the fucking cities and municipalities who raised development fees between 5 times and 10 times over the last 25 years. So that if you wanted to build this condo, nearly between 22 and 30% of it was going to the government. And that means that's what buyers had to pay. They had to pay the government.
Ultimate greed.
Ultimate greed. So,
yeah,
big fuck over on the government for that one. All right. Bank of Canada, covered it before. We predicted it. It happened exactly as predicted. Simple. Now, I want to just go ahead and tell people how this is going to play out. And then people are going to get mad, and we're going to get all kinds of fucking comments in the comments section of like, you fat bastard, you do not. Well, by the way, somebody said in the comments last week, they said, you got to stop calling yourself a fat fuck. Because it's triggering me because I'm pretty fucking fat, okay? And I don't want you to say that anymore because I think you're being you're body shaming people, even though you're body shaming
love
yourself.
Love
Ronald.
yourself.
Yeah.
Love yourself, Ronald.
Okay, all right. So
today's lesson.
Guess what? Guess what? Everybody you know, everybody who knows me, like literally everybody, like every human being who's met me, will come away saying, this fucker really loves himself. I mean, he does. So, hey, faithful listener out there. Faithful viewer, don't worry. I love the shit out of myself, okay? But I always call it as I sees it. And ultimately, the facts are, I'm a fat fuck. So, what does this fat fuck... So, we're going to get the comments like, oh, yeah, you fat bastard. You're telling everybody the rate's going to drop. You don't fucking know the rate's going to drop. You should shut the fuck up about the rate dropping. The rates are probably going to go, the Canadian dollar's going to go down, inflation's going to go through the roof, and the rates are going to go right back up again. Okay? So for everybody who's made that same comment for, I don't know, a year now, okay, just shove it up your ass. Okay?
We're past that.
We're so far past it.
Yeah.
The Canadian economy is going down. Like, I keep telling you how the Canadian economy is going down the crapper. Like, we're through the crapper already.
Yeah.
The Canadian economy is already through the crapper, even though some people don't know it yet. And we're actually in the waste treatment plant. Okay, seriously, the Canadian economy. Forget about the crapper. It's in the waste treatment plant.
Treated.
I mean, like, because there's no easy fix to what's going on. Okay, and if the Canadian economy is in the waste treatment plant, then the rates have to come down.
Yeah.
Okay, so by the end of this year, probably 4%, 4.5 right now, probably 4% by the end of 2024. 3% by the middle of 2025. That's just it. So don't shoot the messenger. Okay? Don't shoot the messenger. Okay? Even if you don't like it, even if you don't believe it, just say, well, I have a different opinion. Not, fuck me, you're a pimp for your industry. Okay? You dirty bastard. You just want to encourage
Ron the
people.
mortgage pimp.
Ron the mortgage pimp. No, it's Angry Mortgage, not the mortgage pimp. Okay? By the way, there's a mortgage pug. No, a guy,
what?
There's a podcast. There's a guy. He's a good guy, actually. I know him. He's a good guy. He's absolutely a good guy. But I think it's Alex McFadden, I think is his name. And he's the mortgage pug.
Oh.
Because he has a pug dog, which is a great little dog. Okay. They're great dogs. Okay. And he's a good guy. But, mortgage pimp, no. We can't do mortgage pimp. No. We cannot do that.
But there is a mortgage pug out there.
Mortgage pug is good. But we're not going to use mortgage pimp at all. All right. So... But we'll get that. You know, every time you say rates are going down, people lose their minds.
Yeah. Say something they don't like, and then.
And it's funny when
come for you.
Because here's the funny part, and I understand them. They want house prices to come down, and they believe lower interest rates will continue to encourage higher prices. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
But the reality of life is that it's not just rates, and we gotta have a little bit of thoughtfulness about people, particularly people on fixed incomes who have a mortgage and they're facing severe increases on their renewals. We simply must be reasonable about those people.
Yeah.
Okay? Sure. I know everybody wants to say, well, what about the investors? They're just greedy. Okay, slow down. There's no way that we can sort out who really needs lower rates on renewal from people who are investors. It's just a whole big batch of people, all right? So in the end, I believe we have to support people who, through no fault of their own, let's say they bought long before the big inflation and COVID and everything else. They bought in 2019 and they're all coming due this year, and they didn't know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they were just going and living their lives, doing their work, paying their mortgage payments, and all of a sudden it's up 30%, whatever. I mean, more than that in some cases. So let's have a little bit of thought for them that we need lower mortgage renewal rates in Canada for the sake of people who just want to stay in their homes, have a family there, keep their family there, and live their lives. Okay, we just have to. Okay, so that brings us to the thought about, will housing take off with now that we've had two? Will real estate prices jump now that we've had two increases? Two decreases. So it's dropped 0.5%. Will that suddenly cause everything to really get going again?
I want to say no, just because it's like, even though the rates are more affordable, the prices are still batshit crazy. So
yeah, you're a person who would like who'd like to buy a home.
Yeah.
And your observation is still no.
Yeah, no.
The prices are still fucked up.
Homes are overpriced. Like, I've seen a 2-bedroom bungalow and beautiful backyard going for like 1.2.
Jesus.
Like a 2-bedroom bungalow. You can imagine how small that is. So it's kind of like, I'm also not open to going into a mortgage debt for a shithole. Not a shithole, but you know what I mean. Like, back in the day, 1.2 was like a pretty nice, decent size home.
It was huge.
So it's kind of like, in comparison to that, like, I was, I'm not that young either. So I do remember house shopping with my parents back in like 2010 and seeing these beautiful homes. And I was like, oh, that's like way out of our budget. And then now it's like, those homes are triple the price. Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
No, you're right. It is, as much as, this is, I think what's happened is that without really a kind of a, fear of missing out, or without like a really, just make it simple. When people were seeing the price of houses going up 10% a year, 8% a year, 1 year, in parts of the GTA, they went up significantly more. 2021, we had some neighborhoods regions where prices went up like 30%.
Yeah.
And they've all come back down mainly. By and large, those regions that had the greatest increase have had the greatest reduction. Okay, so we're thinking of the far periphery of the GTA, where people, for decent sized homes, for like 33,000 square foot homes.
Yeah.
So they're all in a bad place, because whatever they paid, it's worth significantly less now.
Yeah.
But the reality is that we can't suspect that extremely high prices and stagnant wages have a long-term viability, right?
Yeah.
The math.
The
okay?
math ain't mathin'.
No, it ain't.
No.
And when there's ultra low rates, like, hey, how about a 5-year fixed for 159? Whoa, yeah, I'll take it. Okay,
yeah.
And even maybe I'll find a way to afford it. But even at we're gonna have the best rate we're ever gonna have in the next year or two is probably 3.89 for a very specialized product, like for high ratio, for CMHC purchases. We're not going to have there's going to be no 1.99 rate. That's not happening. So that's bringing people down to earth, and people say, well, I really need house prices to come way down for this to make any sense to me. And the idea that since they're not going up 10% a year anymore, or 8% or 6%, maybe I can wait. It's not. It doesn't look like I'm going to be missing out on fuck all.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no FOMO there.
No FOMO. Okay. So anyway, that's why I don't think now. We may have to reassess when we start to get down, when the bank, middle of next year or in the spring, if the bank has dropped significantly, central bank of Canada has dropped significantly, and we may have to re-examine. Okay, I don't know those answers. Okay, but I do know that in the waste treatment plant economy that we're headed for.
Yeah.
Okay, that people don't feel highly motivated to run out and buy the biggest investment of their lives, the biggest purchase of their lives. So,
yeah.
So we're gonna have to. That's something we're gonna watch. That's gonna be, our analysis is going to be dominated by events in real time. But that at this point in time, that's the way I see it. Mm-hmm. Now it's interesting. You may have noticed that when we run some of our shows and in other social media that we work in, we get comments. We get lots of comments. Yeah. I think there's probably that all the different platforms of social media that we're on, we probably generate about, I don't know, a couple hundred comments a day, maybe more some days. Maybe like some days there's thousands literally from all different directions of the various platforms we're involved in, whether it's TikTok or
Instagram,
Thread,
so
X,
many.
big on X. Okay.
Twitter's, yeah.
A lot of commentary there. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that when you talk about the slowdown in construction, because my base case is simple. Mm-hmm. If it's not a government-sponsored new construction, it's not happening. Like if it's not purpose-built rentals that's taking advantage, well, they can't take advantage anymore because they pulled the program back, but there was a great program through CMHC for developers to build purpose-built rentals, and it made a lot of sense, and they took advantage of it. So it was getting so popular, naturally CMHC pulled it back a bit, particularly in Ontario and British Columbia. But you have to ultimately say that's kind of a government-sponsored thing. By the way, let's not beat up on CMHC about offering this program for purpose-built rentals. We need more rentals, folks. We need
housing
rentals.
One way or another.
But particularly we need rentals that have, that are managed not by mom and pop, but they're managed by big corporations, who that's all they do. They just make sure that there's reason that the building's maintained, and that, so that was a good thing. But then everything to do with the Housing Accelerator Fund. Remember the Housing Accelerator Fund, all that talk?
The PR photo op across Canada.
It was always a federal government minister with a hard hat, like we had
orange vest.
An orange vest, like we had the prime minister and the finance minister with these hard hats and orange vests. And Housing Accelerator Fund are going, it's going to change everything. Okay, so that's what most Canadians don't realize is that those units that were being built through the Housing Accelerator Fund are all subsidized housing. Right. They're all social housing, which is a good thing. People who are in there's all kinds of disabled people in those situations. There's all kinds of people.
And the wait list is long.
The wait list is long. And so it's a good thing we're building those things. But everybody needs to realize all those pictures of hard hats and orange vests were never going to be houses that anybody could buy.
And they didn't emphasize that.
No, they kept that quiet.
Yeah.
They kept that very
that
quiet.
was the very fine print.
That was or no print.
Yeah.
Okay, or no print. And what they also recommended, what the government also said is, but if we're going to give you this money, you have to change your zoning so it's easier to build multifamily. So if you got a single family lot, we insist that you take it to like a 4-plex or a 6-plex or something. That should be available at
your own cost.
Well, it's private enterprise, sure. But what we've learned is, the horrible truth of what we learned is that the municipalities, towns, and cities that this is happening in, they just said, "Oh yeah, you think you're going to force us to eliminate single family? Well, I don't like that because that's how I get voted in. I get voted in by old fucks, boomers sitting in fucking single family. Okay, they vote the most. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to raise development fees on this multifamily." So that it won't make sense to do it. Okay. So anyway, it's
always so contradicting.
It's just exhausting how other levels of government can, even if the program makes sense, other levels of government step in to try to fuck with it. So, all right. So where is new construction going in Ontario? Ontario is the focus of it. Ontario has is the biggest province, 37% of the Canadian population, and has the most housing problems. I mean, Toronto is actually growing at twice the pace because of all the immigration, is growing at almost twice. Well, no, sorry, that's wrong. It's not twice, but it is the fastest growing city in North America. Like Dallas and Houston don't even come close. Okay, and when we look at all the other American cities, not anywhere near the growth rate. So yes, we need housing. Okay.
Yeah.
But because of the mismatch in cost, prices, and the huge development fees, the difficulty in getting approvals and like
all the red tape,
all of it, construction, and particularly with higher rates, okay, construction in Ontario is slowing to a standstill. Other than that government-sponsored stuff we just discussed, there's virtually nobody building anything.
Yeah.
And this, by the way, this isn't me saying it. This is every kind of report, every kind of CMHC will catch up in about 4 months and say, you know what, it's strange, but all the building stopped.
Yeah.
So they'll catch up. But I mean, and we get comments in the comments section of all our posts about this, which echo it. You know, they say, hey, I've been in the trades for 27 years. For the last 16 years, I have literally never missed a day if I wanted to work, because once one project completed, I was already booked to go to the next project.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the comment really hit me. It said, I got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
For the first time in all these years, and I'm at the top of my trade, there's nowhere to go. And another comment came in and said, yeah, I was in the union hiring hall, checking out the union hiring hall. There's nothing.
Yeah. I have a friend who's part of the union, and he hasn't worked for months. Like, I can't even tell you how long it's been, months, that he hasn't been able to find a job, because the union's like, yeah, we'll call you when we have something.
There ain't nothing.
There's nothing for you. So
one of our coworkers' sons, same thing. Coworker said no. He said, I asked about the son. He said, no, it hasn't worked for months.
And that's so crazy, because back in the day, construction was always a job that needed hands.
Yeah, we heard nothing about, we need, people are retiring. We need a lot more people.
So much so that there's this program where they're basically trying to introduce an apprenticeship.
Yeah, develop more and more apprenticeship. Yeah.
Right, because there's not enough people in the trades.
Right.
But yet now there's no jobs.
No, there's no jobs. And by that will, as we go into 2025, that will get worse and worse. Okay, because projects aren't starting, but the ones we just talked about earlier about the condos, they're completing.
Right.
So once they're
and
finished,
when they're done, that's it.
We're done. Okay, there's no new ones.
Like, what the fuck is this government doing?
Well,
just so...
some of it is just, you can't, I will blame government and by the way, government fucked this into the ground, sure. But, there's elements of, there's always the things we didn't really know. Like, I'm always happy to admit when I completely fucked it up. And I remember when inflation was first taking off and rates were starting going up, I said, look, because rates were like less than 1%. They were 0.25, a quarter of 1% was the Bank of Canada rate, okay? And then when it started going up, I was one of the first ones to say, nah, it can never go past 2%. If it goes past 2%, it'll destroy the economy. And I was so fucking wrong. By the way, but the only guy, the guy who was the closest to right only bet on 2.75.
Wow.
And so literally every economist in Canada, every bank economist, every analyst said, no, it can't. Now, we think it'll go to 2. We think it'll go to 2.5. We'll think it'll go to 2.7. 2.75 was the outlier, highest projection. Went to 5.
Yeah.
So,
because I guess they didn't think logically we would ever get that far, because they knew how bad it would be. Cognitive
bias. Like, I had recency bias, I had confirmation bias, and I said, yeah, no, fuck no. If it's been 0 to 5, and before it only went to 2, it can't go past 2.5. I mean, that would be crazy. It would harm everything. So naturally, I was dead fucking wrong, completely wrong, big time wrong, and I was wrong. Well, I can be wrong. I've been wrong quite frequently, actually.
Yeah.
But I was right about one thing. It took 2 years, but it has fucked the economy up.
Oh, yeah. That's for damn sure.
All right. So, but the most affected, I feel, are going to be people in the construction, in the trades. So that's going to be a bad thing. Because, by the way, those people are, I want no one to not realize this. People in the trades work hard.
Oh,
fuck, they work hard.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is real work. This isn't
real hard labor.
Yeah, this isn't Ron Butler sit at his desk and take phone calls.
They don't have soft hands.
Yeah, my hands are so soft. They're like cotton fucking, they're cotton balls. Okay. They're the softest hands in the world. Okay. And they're small and they're soft and look at me. Like, I could, if I had
calluses.
But look, seriously, if I had even to walk across the construction site twice, I would probably need oxygen. So, like, I am the least fucking construction guy on earth. They all work very fucking hard. And by the way, for the top trades and for everybody, there's a great deal of knowledge, expertise, and skill involved in this. Like you will never hear me say one fucking bad thing against tradespeople. If there's any, if we really break it down, they're some of the most hardest working, most absolutely normal. Okay, you won't hear too much woke shit out of tradespeople. Okay, I mean, like you will not. Okay, they just want to get the job finished.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's gonna be bad, and I feel bad about that. Okay?
Yeah.
I feel really bad about it. So we have the viewer mail. So what questions do we have?
This one says, Ron, why is the 2-year fix so much higher than a 3-year? I want to take a 2-year, but it's much higher.
Yeah, so we've got, the 2-year, I would say if you checked around all the different websites for rates, the 2-year is typically in, the very best deal is like in the 2.39, 2.49. Sorry, totally bad. That's all wrong, completely false. So let's rewind and start again. So the 2-year, if you check all the websites, is in like the 549, 539, 569 range. Okay.
Yeah.
But every single 3-year rate is under 5%.
Oh.
So that's a big difference. Like there's no 3-year rate. Yeah, some are published at, you can find some published rates. Like go at the bank's posted rates, and 3-year is supposedly, 549. Okay. But nobody, if you just chirp up one word, you will get a better deal than that. You will say like virtually every single 3-year we see is under 5%, and some of them are quite low, like high ratio CMHC, much lower than that.
Yeah.
Okay, so and certainly every 5 years, every 5 year that anybody should run into 5-year fixed is always got to be under 5%, significantly under. 589, 579. In the case of high ratio, like as low as 444. Lots of very low rates, but that is a big jump. Like 2-year 549, 3-year 489, big difference. Payment difference. Why? Really simple answer. The bank has a certain amount of fixed costs to issue a mortgage, to underwrite and issue a mortgage. There's a certain amount of fixed costs. If you're spreading it over 3 years, that's 33% more years than there is in 2 years. So they got to amortize those costs. And finally, banks really, it's not that easy to securitize 2-year. There's, for most banks, part of that's coming off their balance sheet. Like that's their actual money. You're not able to turn it into a bond, or not as easily turn it into a bond. And the bond yields do not favor it right now. So ultimately, there's a number of internal reasons and there's a number of pricing reasons, but yeah, until things really change and really settle down and rates are been low for a while, we will continue to see this thing. So this thing of 2-year being higher than a 3-year. So there's no escape. It's a bunch of little technical reasons, but they add up to going to stay higher for a while.
Got it. This one says, I have 75 acres of land in Milton, touches Main Road, and the other side is solid houses and a subdivision. They won't let me out of the green belt, even though it's all bush.
Okay, so let's think of that. So that person actually sent a follow-up email, which he even showed me the geo pictures of the whole neighborhood. And the correct description of this is, yes, the land is within the greenbelt. The greenbelt is just, it's just a line. It's a line. They drew a line and said, okay, this side of the road is a greenbelt, this side of the road is a subdivision. And what I've said before, and I'll say it again, because when you looked at these pictures from the air, like drone shots or satellite shots of this whole thing, there's really no fucking agriculture going on his 75 acres. Okay. It's mainly bush. It's not
like protected species or.
No, there's no owl in danger of extinction or anything. It's just an arbitrary line. So as much as, again, that's a favorite thing as soon as you talk about parts of the greenbelt concept being stupid, there's like 300 comments that come out and say, you're just a dirty bastard. Farming with land is the most precious. Okay, well, the news I got to tell you is most of the food produced is not anywhere close to the greenbelt. and most of the food in Canada is produced in provinces where there's far less people. I mean, they're knocking out the food in Saskatchewan and Manitoba and Alberta, and there's no green belt. They don't need a green belt. The whole place is like, it's just, anyway. So
I'm sure there's a way we can build around it and still preserve some of it. But I feel like right now, with the pressing issue of the housing crisis, we need the land to build.
We need the land to build when it's just a sore thumb issue like this guy's got. He's pointing out that, the subdivision is right there. Like, I'm here. The land is empty. It's just bush. Yeah. We haven't farmed on it for the last 40 years because it's just bushland. That's not economical to farm on. Yeah. Like, it's just too small. Like, you need big scale to farm today. Okay. Yeah. The family quit farming on it a long time ago, and yet
he's got all this land and nothing to do with him.
And this is the simplest land in the world to develop because all of the sewer is right across the fucking road.
Right.
And the road is there, provide all the access you want. So, folks, let me just make this simple truth. This listener is correct. In some cases, it makes zero fucking sense to preserve the greenbelt when it's touching cities. Like,
especially if there's this whole subdivision on the other side, it's kind of like,
and particularly when he's farming fuck all.
Yeah,
I know all the comments will be, well, he could start. Okay, look,
it's not going to feed not even a quarter of Toronto with 75 acres.
Yeah, please. So, that's not even worth talking about.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we come to our favorite part of the program.
What the actual fuck?
And we're going to actually follow up on the what the actual fuck from a week or so ago. So guess what council in Toronto has decided? Mayor Chow and the council are working on now.
Enlighten me.
So after the floods, everybody's pissed off about the floods, as well they should be.
Yes,
flooded
we are.
Basements, flooded, and as we talked about earlier, in another episode, exactly the same place the floods happened before.
Yep.
You gave prima facie evidence, your own neighborhood.
Yep.
It's just...
Still smells like shit, by the way. Side note, we haven't barbecued.
Side note, sewage and barbecue and shit smell.
We can't sit outside because it's so fucking humid and stinky. But yes,
Christ.
We remember.
All right, so you know what? The council and the mayor in Toronto have tried to find a solution. And they're so good at solutions, they've decided that the solution is there's too many parking lots.
What?
Yeah. Too many parking lots. Too many, and because they really hate asphalt. Okay, they hate cars, they hate parking lots, they hate anything, and they blame the asphalt. They said, because as Mayor Chow said, the asphalt is not permeable. We need permeable. I don't know whether she wants us to have permeable parking lots. I mean, like,
does she think I live in a parking lot?
I live in a parking lot.
I live in a residential neighborhood
where it's flooded,
very residential,
consistently. Okay.
Yes. I'm telling you, you go north, east, south, west. You're going upwards because we live downwards.
Yeah. Look, I mean,
there's a creek on the other side. We're prone to what? Where's the fucking parking lot?
Just put it. The answer obviously is always the same answer. Spend the money to put in the fucking better storm sewers, drainage. Just go do it. Just where the problem is. Just go fix it. But no, and I'll tell you why.
But now is it because of the cars?
It's always the car. It's always the fucking
the car dealership.
The car is the enemy. It's always the car is the enemy. So we got to fuck with the parking lots.
Oh my God.
And
I'm frustrated.
We had the rain. She wants to bring back the rain tax. If you got too much asphalt, we got to have a rain tax. Because here's the fuckery, the ultra fuckery of all governments in Canada. The answer to every problem is raise taxes.
Yeah.
Like, wait a second, fuckers. Okay.
But fix the problem.
Why don't you just take the money you have and put in the fucking storm drains, okay?
Yeah.
And of course, there's going to be like 13 urban planners are going to put their little comments on it. Well, I have a degree in urban planning. I'm a master's degree in urban planning, and you don't understand it. You shouldn't comment on it. And my response to that is, fuck yourself, okay? Like, I'm tired of you urban planners. I'm tired of you crazy fucking counselors and crazy mayor, okay?
Put the degree to work and fix my fucking street, please. Thanks.
Exactly. Just fix it. Just fix it. Don't talk about we need more taxes. We need more taxes. We should tax the culprits who are parking lots. Please fuck yourself, okay?
Fix the fucking roads.
Just do the work. I mean, just chop some fucking, quit building fucking, put pink fucking metal umbrellas on a beach and quit doing stupid shit and paying for like deal with the fucking problem and quit with the taxes, okay?
Amen.
Thank you. See you next week, guys.
If you like the pod, well, don't just sit there. Go to YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and all the other ones and like the pod. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep being angry at mortgages and swearing about mortgages. Angry Mortgage could use your support.